Arguments stop being about logic the moment your heart rate goes over 100 beats per minute. This is not a metaphor. It is a biological fact that dictates the success or failure of every difficult conversation you have ever had. You might have experienced this sensation before. You are in the middle of a disagreement with your partner. They are talking and their mouth is moving, but you cannot hear the words. Your mind has gone blank. Or perhaps you feel the opposite sensation. You feel a heat rising in your chest, your vision narrows, and you have an overwhelming urge to say something cruel just to make the pressure stop. We often judge ourselves harshly for these moments. We call ourselves immature, reactive, or bad listeners. We assume that if we just loved our partner enough, we would be able to stay calm and rational. But what is actually happening in these moments has very little to do with your character and everything to do with your biology. You are experiencing a state known in psychology as emotional flooding. Understanding the mechanics of flooding is the single most important tool for stopping a conflict from becoming a war. To understand why we lose our ability to listen, we have to look at the architecture of the human brain. We essentially have two brains operating at the same time. There is the prefrontal cortex, which is the seat of logic, empathy, and complex decision-making. This is the part of you that loves your partner and wants to solve the problem. Then there is the amygdala, which is the ancient alarm system deep in the emotional center of the brain. The amygdala has one job. Its job is to scan the environment for threats and keep you alive. When a conversation escalates into an argument, your amygdala begins to pay attention. It does not distinguish between a saber-toothed tiger in the bushes and a partner criticizing your spending habits. To the amygdala, a threat is a threat. If the argument feels dangerous to your sense of self or safety, the amygdala hits the panic button. This is often called the amygdala hijack. It initiates a cascade of hormones, including adrenaline and cortisol, that flood your bloodstream instantly. This chemical surge causes a state called diffuse physiological arousal, or DPA. This is the clinical term for flooding. When you are in DPA, your body is preparing for fight or flight. To do this efficiently, your body diverts resources. Blood is actually drained away from your prefrontal cortex and sent to your major muscle groups. You are biologically preparing to punch something or run away. This means that the part of your brain responsible for logic, humor, and empathy literally goes offline. You become stupid, not because you are unintelligent, but because you are chemically impaired. When your heart rate exceeds 100 beats per minute during a conflict, you physically cannot process language effectively. You lose the ability to read facial cues accurately. A neutral expression from your partner might look angry to you. A look of concern might look like disgust. Your hearing changes. You stop hearing the nuance of their argument and only hear the attack. This leads to a phenomenon known as tunnel vision. Your focus narrows down to a single point: self-defense. This explains why you cannot resolve an issue when one or both partners are flooded. You are trying to use a software program that has been shut down. You are trying to use logic with a brain that has reverted to a primitive survival state. Continuing to talk when you are flooded is not brave. It is destructive. You are no longer interacting with the person you love. You are interacting with a threat that must be neutralized. One of the most damaging misunderstandings about flooding involves the reaction known as stonewalling. This occurs when one partner shuts down completely. They stop making eye contact. They cross their arms. They might stare at the floor or give one-word answers. To the other partner, this looks like cold indifference. It looks like they don't care. It looks like a power play designed to punish. However, research suggests that stonewalling is often an involuntary physiological response to being overwhelmed. The stonewaller is not calm. In fact, their heart rate is usually higher than the person doing the yelling. Their system has become so overloaded with stimulation that it has blown a fuse. They shut down to prevent a total biological collapse. They are not trying to hurt you. They are trying to lower their own internal volume. Mistaking this survival mechanism for malice is a tragedy that ends many relationships. We also lose our sense of humor when we are flooded. This sounds trivial, but it is actually vital. Humor is a high-level social function. It requires perspective and safety. In a healthy discussion, a small joke can break the tension. But when you are flooded, a joke feels like an insult. You cannot access the part of your brain that understands playfulness. Everything becomes deadly serious because survival is serious business. There is a pervasive myth in our culture that says we should never go to bed angry. We are told that we must stay in the room until the conflict is resolved. This advice is dangerous for couples who are prone to flooding. If you force yourself to stay in a conversation when you are in a state of DPA, you will almost certainly say things you regret. You will cause damage that takes months to repair. The goal should not be to finish the fight at all costs. The goal should be to stop the damage. So, how do we handle this biology responsibly? We need to implement a protocol of safety that respects the limits of the nervous system. The first step is to recognize your own physical signs of flooding. You know your body better than anyone. Perhaps your hands start to shake. Perhaps your face feels hot. Perhaps your stomach drops. Maybe you just feel a sudden, intense desire to leave the room. These are your early warning signals. Once you recognize the signal, you must call a timeout. This is not the same as storming out. Storming out triggers your partner's abandonment fears and makes the situation worse. A timeout is a structured, agreed-upon break. You need a specific code word or hand signal that you establish when you are calm. It could be as simple as making a T with your hands or saying a phrase like, "I am flooded." When one partner uses the signal, the conversation must stop immediately. This is not a suggestion, it is a rule. But there is a crucial second part to this rule. You must promise to return. You must say, "I am feeling overwhelmed and I cannot listen right now. I am going to take a break for 20 minutes and then we can try again." This creates a container of safety. It reassures your partner that you are not leaving the relationship, you are just resetting your brain. During the break, what you do matters immensely. Many people make the mistake of using the break to rehearse their argument. They sit in the other room and ruminate. They think of all the clever comebacks they should have said. They obsess over how unfair their partner is being. If you do this, your heart rate will stay high. You will remain flooded. You will return to the fight just as angry as when you left. To reset the vagus nerve, you must stop thinking about the fight. You need to engage in self-soothing distraction. Read a magazine, watch a funny video, pet the dog, do a crossword puzzle. You are trying to send a signal to your body that the tiger is gone. You are trying to coax your prefrontal cortex back online. Deep breathing is particularly effective here. A long exhale signals safety to the nervous system. Try breathing in for a count of 4 and out for a count of 8. Do this for 2 minutes. The minimum time required for the body to metabolize the stress hormones is about 20 minutes. Do not try to come back sooner. If you return before your physiology has reset, you will likely trigger the flooding again within seconds. It is better to wait an hour than to come back 5 minutes too early. When you do return to the conversation, the energy will be different. You have your brain back. You can hear your partner again. You might find that the issue that seemed catastrophic an hour ago now seems manageable. You can say, "I'm sorry I shut down. I was feeling overwhelmed. Can you tell me again what you needed, and I will try to listen better this time?" This practice requires humility. It requires admitting that we are biological creatures with limitations. It requires us to accept that we are not always rational. But it is also incredibly empowering. It gives you a tool to stop the spiral. It protects your relationship from the destructive force of unbridled adrenaline. Conflict is inevitable in any relationship, but emotional flooding does not have to be the end of the conversation. It is simply a sign that the body needs a break. By respecting that sign, you are protecting the bond. You are prioritizing the safety of the relationship over the need to be right in the moment. The ultimate takeaway is a simple rule of thumb. Resolve the mood, then resolve the issue. You cannot solve a complex emotional problem when your body thinks it is fighting for its life. Prioritize the regulation of your nervous system above the content of the argument. When you feel the red mist descending, stop, breathe, step away. Remind yourself that the person in front of you is not a predator. They are your partner, and they will still be there when your brain comes back online.